Okay. So again, welcome. I want to introduce you all to Alexis A.K. Payne. She is a playwright, artist, lyricist, and theater maker whose people are rooted in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. She graduated in 2015 from Kappa and from School of Career. AK is an accomplished dramatist with astonishing promise. She holds a BA in English and African American Studies from Yale College. In 2019, she graduated with distinction in both and with a concentration in playwriting. AK is currently pursuing a Master's of Fine Arts in Playwriting from Yale School of Drama. Her plays love on the Her plays love on and engage the interdependencies of Black past, presents, and futures, and seek to find and remember language that might move us toward our collective liberations. Her honors and awards, just a few, are the Louis Sudler Prize for Excellence in Performing and Creative Arts, the Playwright Award for 24-Hour Plays National, the Dr. Floyd Gaffney National Playwriting Competition on African American Experience, O'Neill National Playwrights Conference semifinalist, Quicksilver Theater Company Playwrights of Color Summit semifinalist, Yale University Theater Studies Department, Yale Playwrights Festival, Young Arts Foundation winner, playwriting and screenwriting, Carnegie Mellon Martin Luther King Writing Awards, Gates Millennium Scholarship, National Merit Scholarship Corporation, Pittsburgh Playwrights Theater Festival in Black and White, Best Play, National Scholastic Writing Awards Portfolio Gold Medal, Princeton Prize for Race Relations Certificate of Accomplishment, and the City Theater's Young Playwrights Contest winner. And most importantly, happy birthday. Alexis' birthday was yesterday. So again, thank you.
Yay, Miss Carla, how'd you not lose your breath going through all that?
I don't even know. I stumbled a couple times, but I was so impressed. I'm like, this isn't even everything. So I kind of cut things short. But as you can hear, just from what I read, she's extremely impressive, and we are honored to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much, Miss Carla. I really appreciate that. Cool. I'll start sharing screen. Let me go ahead here. Okay, can y'all see the screen okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Cool. So I'm gonna be talking to y'all a little bit about, the presentation is kind of called like Black Space Making and Community. I think that's sort of how I would frame my work as a playwright and as a director and as an artist. Is really around just creating Black spaces and community with people that I love and care about. And so it's going to be, this presentation is going to be like me talking a lot about just like different communities that I've created and then communities that I found myself in, people that I'm inspired by. And then I'm going to lead y'all on a little writing exercise at the end, and then y'all can ask some questions, basically is the shape of it. And I'm sorry in advance, I talk really fast. So if I'm talking too fast, feel free to be like, slow down, I'm talking too fast. All right, cool. Okay, so this first picture is my grandmother, and she's with her sisters and some other people in my family. And it's one of my favorite pictures that I have in my family like archive, because it shows her creating this space with her family around her. And I think that's really important to the work that I do, is creating communities and creating rooms where people can exist and be. And so my grandmother is over on the left, and she's cutting the cake for my aunt who is sitting on the table. So that's the first picture that I wanted to frame this as, because a lot of these pictures in this series for this presentation are of my family and of people who have like created communities for me to feel whole and safe in, and then inspired me to create communities in turn. Cool. So that is my mom, and that's one of her teachers when she was in college. She's a music teacher at Faison, and she's one of my biggest inspirations and teachers. And so one of my inspirations and goals in life is to be a teacher and an educator, and to share knowledge that I have about playwriting and about directing. And so that being part of my core as well. So she's in a music class. I think this was when she was in college or in high school. I don't quite remember, but yeah, I love this picture too of her and one of her teachers. That's me and my mom from when I was like 5, I think. But yeah, she's teaching me how to read. And then there's me and my family. And so I think a lot of what I care about in terms of community and space making is imagination and dreaming and play. And I think so often like Black and brown folks don't get space to think, to like use their imaginations critically. And so what I think about and like hope through my writing and through my work is to open up rooms for us to like engage what it might mean to use our imaginations to imagine what new worlds might look like, what new spaces might look like. So that's me, that's my cousin over on the left, my dad and my aunt in the back. And me and my cousin again in Highland Park in the Wooden Park. I don't know if y'all know yet. Okay, and then this is the first play that I directed when I was in undergrad. It was called The Colored Museum. And this play it's by George C. Wolfe, and it was the first time I ever directed anything. And one of the core things that I wanted to do was bring together people from all different years in the university and try to create a play that was telling a story about Black life. And The Colored Museum is a play that has a lot of different little vignettes, a lot of different little stories that all come together. And this is one of the pictures from our production. And I realized when I was directing that a core of my goal, because my school was like it's a predominantly white institution and like very racist in lots of ways. And so I really wanted in the space that I was creating to create a room where Black folks could come and feel like they could create and they could speak and we could all share our ideas and offer our ideas into the room. And so that was kind of the terms that I set upon creating this production, was trying to explore how to create that, how to create a room that felt welcoming and felt that we could all be there and create together. So here are some other pictures from that show. And I think one of the big things that we focused on too was how to create imagery that might allude to the stories we were trying to tell and create imagery that had like many different stories ingrained within it. So this is from the first scene of the play, and one of the characters is taking the audience on this interactive journey. So you can see the people facing outwards, facing in different directions to invite the audience into the story. This was one of our moments in the rehearsal room, and one of the big things I integrate into the core of my process is building an ensemble, building a community, building a room. And so we're all standing in a circle and I was leading the cast in this exercise of like feeling our feet on the ground, feeling what it means to be Black and brown people in this predominantly white institution, to be creating work in this space and in this way. And yeah, so these people are some of my like closest friends now still, just because like we sort of created this room together and this process together. All right, and then the second show that I worked on in undergrad was this play called Top Dog Underdog by Susan Lori Parks. And it's a play about these two brothers. It was a cast of two, and we had it was free and open to the public, which y'all can see on the sides of the little advertisement here. And these were like these little cards that we created to pass out to people in the community in New Haven to be able to invite them to the show. And that was a big part of both of these shows that I was working on, is trying to get information about them out to people like beyond my university community, because so much of my predominantly white institutions like rules are like about how to keep people inside of it and to like keep people who are not in the institution like out. And so trying to like break those walls down and those divides down was a big part of the work that I was trying to do in creating community that felt inclusive and welcoming. So this was the set for that play. It was much smaller in a much smaller space, but the play was a two-person show, and it had two brothers named Lincoln and Booth, and they were two brothers who were navigating life together. This is the two actors. You can see them on the right on the set. And then there's me and the two actors. And so we planned a trip to New York City to see another play by the same writer who did the play that we did. And so we went to New York and like got to meet her and to like see, you know, the cast, like her show, and to talk to her a little bit. And so that was a core of our process too, was getting to learn together about different playwrights and different ways the theater industry works, and to be in community together that way. This was all four of us. So that's Sekou and Casey, who played the two brothers, and then me and the stage manager, Gabby, who's one of my best friends. And we're all in the lobby of the theater.
What's the play called again?
It's called Top Dog Underdog. All right.
I was
And
actually talking with Miss Carla earlier. My friend Nick Walker, who's a Broadway actor, was actually in, I think he was in this, I thought when I first was talking to Miss Carla, I was like, oh, my friend wrote that. I was like, no, he did not. But I think he was actually in the second cast of that. So I was like, oh, wow, small worlds. Like,
that's so cool. It's a great play. It's really a difficult play to direct, but it's really fun.
yeah, really gritty, but a huge challenge for a director. That is no slouch there.
Yeah, it was super difficult, and we had very new actors too, but it was exciting to sort of dive into it and just see what we found. We did a lot of exploration and just playing, and that was a big thing because both of these actors had never acted before, and it was really exciting to just
Wow.
space to play together. But,
Oh,
yeah.
that's awesome.
Mhm.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No problem. So this is something I wanted to offer too, or bring into the space too, because I think a lot of my work as an artist is in conversation with other artists and other people who are creating. So this is a piece called I'll Bend, But I Will Not Break by Betty Saar, or Betty Saar. It was made in 1998. And I saw it when I was in LA in this program. And it is a piece, I don't know if y'all can see it, but there's like a slave ship on the bottom of this ironing board. And then on the top it says, I'll bend, but I will not break. And so what she's really playing with this piece is, the dichotomy between like there's this history, this past that we're constantly holding of being descendants of enslaved people, but also the work and labor that enacts and enables survival. So the idea of washerwomen and people who have worked in order to ensure existence and survival for Black women and Black folks throughout time, and that labor being critical to sustaining this country and this hemisphere. And yeah, so my next play that I worked on was a play that I wrote called Filling Basins. And it's a play about these six Black washerwomen in Atlanta, Georgia, who staged a strike in 1881. And it was like based on this book called To Joy My Freedom by Tara Hunter. So I was also an African-American studies major in undergrad. And so I did a lot of research when I was writing this play about these washerwomen and their lives and like how their lives were informed by slavery and by all these different moments. And this play was at a critical point in between the end of slavery and like civil rights movement and all these like big moments. So it happened in 1881, which doesn't really get talked about. When we hear about African-American history, we often hear about the Civil War. And then like we just jump to 1960 and we don't talk about all the time that happened in between. And so this play was focused on 1881. And these are also some of my close friends who were in the very first reading of that play at my school, and who are still some of my close friends to this day. This was the sign for the production that we did my senior year of undergrad. One of my close friends designed the poster, which I really love to this day. It's really great. And one of my best friends directed it. And so just getting to see her working in the room, getting to support her process, and also learning about different aspects of how to do a production, because I was co-producing with my other friend, Alexis, who is now in the same sorority as me as well, which was really cool to like go through that arc with her. And yeah, we did it. It was the first show that was ever done. So there's a Black theater ensemble in our university, and an ensemble that has access to bigger theaters and bigger spaces, but isn't it has more money and resources and stuff, but isn't a Black theater ensemble. And so it was the first production that was a partnership between the Black theater ensemble and the like larger one that has more resources and money and things like that. So we got to use a bigger space, and it was really a cool process. Here's a little quick video of my friend Anita directing. I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. And before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. That was closer. So my mom and I always have a theme. So yeah, this is like, just watching this makes me so happy, because just like being in this room was so, it was so affirming to like see, because I think the thing for me with playwriting comes from the fact that it's not like you write the play on your own in your room, or I write the play on my own in my room, but it expands outward. There's so many different voices that are a part of the process of putting it up, which I think is really the core of what theater means for me, is that it's not just about you, it's about the director's vision. It's about each actor bringing something new. It's about the sound designer and the lighting designer. I saw my first play that I ever did at City Theater, and I was like so struck by how all of those things came together and all of those like different elements added upon the other. And so this room was so affirming to me because each actor brought something different. Anita brought a vision that like elevated so much in the script that I had written that I wouldn't have even thought of bringing. And so that sort of collaborative work and that effort was so like productive in this particular space. But that's Anita there. She's the director. And then those are the 6 people who play the washerwoman. And then Sophia, who's sitting here, is the assistant director in the room. That's me, Anita, and Gabby, who was the stage manager again. She worked on Top Dog Underdog as well. But that was us on there, like during our tech week, building the set. And then this is some of the stills from the production. I need to choreograph this beautiful sequence using the song by Nina Simone that like is present here. And she used a lot of like shadows and light and color that was really beautiful. So yeah, that was filling basins. And then finally, here's a picture from, so as I mentioned, so my school is a predominantly white institution and very racist, and there's a lot of different difficulties and things that were going on when I was there. So when I was a freshman, there was a whole bunch of protests and things like that around the changing of different names, the changing of buildings. There was a building named after John C. Calhoun, who's like a famous slave owner and segregationist. And so a lot of students, including myself, like organized to like change those names during our first year and during our time, and to just get a lot of things changed to the point where like when I was a senior, like the students coming in, they had like such a different experience coming into the school than like I had when I was a freshman, which was really refreshing to see, but also just interesting noticing how much a lot of the things that they had changed were like symbolic rather than actual like substantial institutional changes, which is really interesting to notice too. But here's one of the signs from when we were protesting. We had this chant that was, "We out here, we've been here, we ain't leaving, we are loved." And so "You are loved" was one of the big parts of that, trying to acknowledge the rich history of Black and Brown folks at Yale, which was a big part of like the things that sustained me as a student there. There's an African American History Center that was founded by Black organizers in the 60s and things like that, that I think really encouraged me to ground myself in the place and to like just seek out different teachers and people who are encouraging me of my right to be there, which I think is really important if any of y'all are interested in going into predominantly white colleges. All right, so now I'm moving into some more of the family history things that have inspired me. The play that I actually wrote for my senior thesis for undergrad was about my grandmother, my dad's father, or my dad's mother, sorry, who I'm named after. Her name is also Alexis. And I spent a lot of time in my senior year and in the summer before my senior year doing research about my grandmother's life. So this is actually my dad's mother's mother, so my great grandmother, and this is her. I think this picture is either in the Hill District or in New York. She was a singer in both areas, and her name is Myrna. And I did a lot of like talking to family, like I went out to California and talked to my dad's mom's sister, and just asked a lot of questions, got a lot of research, and ended up writing this play that ended up getting me into graduate school. But here's a picture of her. That's her singing. This is her. This is definitely in the Hill District and like the Savoy and like those regions around there. Her with people in that scene. She is on the left in the first picture, and yeah, y'all can see she's there. That's her again in the middle on the left. This is my great grandmother, and that's her finally again. Sorry, excuse the sirens. And here's the final picture, which is one of my favorite ones, because she's pregnant in this picture with my grandmother, who's named Alexis, and that is my aunt who I interviewed in the stroller. And so it was so refreshing to me thinking about how stories get passed down and how oral histories get passed down. And I think it was really fundamental for me as a writer and as an artist to learn where my family came from, to learn about the history of artists and women in my family who have even though like they didn't necessarily get to like fully materialize the dreams that they had for themselves as artists, like their stories being passed down, like manifest in various ways in the people who exist today, like myself and my cousins, etc. So yeah, and that's my great grandmother there. And this is my grandmother, whose name's Alexis, and she also grew up in the Hill District, and she passed away when she was 36, very, very young. And so I grew up always hearing her name and hearing about her life story from my father, and never really knowing like everything about her. So I spent a lot of this time like just talking to my dad, talking to my mom, my family, just about who she was and like what moved her to her death. And she was like very, very depressed when she died. And so thinking about these histories of mental health and the importance of that in the Black community was very important to my process of writing this play about her life.
I love how photogenic your family is, because my grandma don't have a lot of pictures.
Yeah, I think that's part of the process I'm going to ask y'all to do at the end, is like try to ask some of your family some questions, because even if there's not pictures, like there's always stories and things to be passed down. So that's my grandmother and my dad in a tree when he was really little. And then there's me and my mom. So my mom is a teacher, as I said, it fades on, and her shirt says schools should not feel like prisons, and mine is decolonize your bookshelf. And I think it's really interesting.
She used to be one of my students.
Yeah, she's one of these students, yep. But just interesting how like knowledge is passed down and teaching is passed down, and just like all of our different things coming into conversation with each other. Because my mom's one of my biggest inspirations in terms of teaching, in terms of just like her work and everything like that, and her stories. And this is a picture of us again. So I actually did a reading of the play about my grandmother at City Theater. It was last summer. And I had heard it a few times, like here at my school and then in New York. But it never felt like the story really landed or like was in its true place until I heard it at City Theater. And that was because my mom was there, my grandmother, my whole family was able to come and just sit in the audience and hear the story that, you know, they had spent this time telling me about my grandmother's life. And so that for me was sort of I realized like that is where the ideal space for where I want like my work to be, like tied to community, connected to community, and to the communities that are important to me and that I have created. So that supports sort of the arc of that particular piece. And then this is a picture by Carrie James Marshall, who's an artist that I really love, that inspires me a lot. It's called Untitled, and it's just a piece of an artist creating. I think that's really like, as I was talking about before, I think a lot of my work is in conversation with other artists around me and other mediums as well. Those are some of my journals that I create. Like using different mediums to create work is really important to my process too. So like collaging and things like that. This is, as I'm sure y'all have seen, the Bride on Penn Ave mural. And this is a sign that I keep actually right here above my desk. It says there are Black people in the future, that I think is really affirming for me as an artist. It's continuing in the midst of everything that we have been seeing with like George Floyd and all these like police brutality cases, like continuing to remind myself that like there are Black people who exist in the future. And there are ways that we can create and imagine new worlds that are capable of holding our communities and ourselves. This is a sign by Alicia Wormsley, who's also a Pittsburgh-based artist. Is
that a mural still there?
It is, I think so.
Okay, I thought someone said earlier that they had removed it or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm.
And then this was also part of my senior thesis for undergrad, was sort of designing this theater company that would be like my ideal theater company to hold the work that I was doing and just like as a community space. And so I realized that the theater company I wanted to create was really first and foremost a community center, and then a theater company after that. And so this community center theater company that I want to make one day, hopefully in Pittsburgh, but maybe somewhere else as well. I want it to be like a collection of spaces maybe, is like, it's shaped in a circle. It's like in the rounds. And when you walk in, there's like a playing space, like a regular theater, but then there's also in the same building, a library, which has like oral histories and conversations with elders in the community. There's a devising room, which has like instruments or just like things for people to create things with. There's a wellness and mental health room. There's a kitchen, a dining hall, a child care center, and a gallery or installation space and a backyard garden. And then in the basement, there's like a shop to create and build sets and things like that. And the vision for this really came from conversations with family and people around me when I was asking like, what are the things you would want to see in a community center or in an art space that could, you know, inspire you and create room for you to create as you need. So that's kind of the model for that I want to make one day. Obviously be very, very expensive. So money is a thing. And I think trying to open up space for me to dream this space first before thinking about how it'll be done logistically has been really important to the process of it. But yeah. And then there's me with the sign for the Ideal Theater Company. And then this is a community that I was living in LA for a little bit and doing work at UCLA, which is a school out there around. So part of my work as an artist is also really tied to research and to theory and to thinking about all the different like scholars and people who have laid the groundwork for like Black women and Black feminists, et cetera, to like imagine new worlds and stuff. So this is one of those communities of people who have inspired me to like think critically and to imagine and to read, which I think is really important to my work too. And finally, this is where I am today. So I'm currently an MFA student at Yale School of Drama. And this is my cohort on the left. That's Rudy and Edwin. They're on the bottom too. And this is the first time so the playwriting program is headed right now by Terrell McCraney, who he wrote Moonlight. I don't know if y'all have heard of that or seen that movie, but he wrote that one. And the program, this is the first time that it has like all Black and brown people in the whole program, which is like really exciting and like just been so affirming for me as an artist to just like be in a space with people who look like me and who have like various experiences all across the board. So yeah. And this is the first play that I did in grad school. This was called Where Pathways Meet, and it took place on the moon. That's what I'm working on right now, is a series of plays that are about Black people traveling to space. I have one play that is about this father who gets out of prison and he is trying to build a rocket ship and go to space because this world cannot hold all the dreams that he has. He's trying to take his daughter with him to go to the moon. And that's what I'm working on right now. But this particular play was about the two actors on the bottom, that's Abigail and Coyote, who were actually, they were the characters who like in this play land on this new planet and like start building and imagining what that might look like as Black folks on the planet. And it was really fun to like play in the room and like just see what comes out of that kind of imaginatory fantasy space and the different dynamics that are present there. But those are the two actors. So there's 5 actors here, and then the director is 2 people over from me in the sweater, and the dramaturg, which is somebody who helps you build the script. That's Faith, who's on the right. She's tall with the blonde hair, and yeah. And then this is, I think, one of the big parts of my journey too as an artist since high school and since moving here has been travel and engaging with like different Black communities in different places in the world. I think that's really been a part of like my journey and a part of how I think about creating art, because I think there's so many different stories to be told and so many different voices. And a lot of times the narratives because of how central like America tries to make itself out to be, like we don't often make space for narratives from people in Africa or in the Caribbean, et cetera. So these photos are some of my travels to different places. This one on the top left is in Trinidad. And then on the right, the top right is in Zanzibar, Tanzania. And then on the bottom right is South Africa. And on the other side is like on a plane flying above stuff. And so just being able to study abroad too in undergrad was a big part of that process, and having that be like through my university and stuff was really cool. But yeah, and I think that's it. Cool. I'm gonna start, maybe we can do questions first, and then I'll go into the little writing exercise to close it out.
So Michael has a question. He said, what was your favorite play that you directed? Sorry.
Actually, it probably would be, so I did a radio play this year because we were supposed to do it for as an actual play, but COVID hit. And I just did it this recently. And that was probably my favorite process so far because as a director, I often, because I also like am a writer, I often get really bogged down in the language and in the words and in like just like how to activate that I sometimes don't get into the sort of physical things until way later. And so the radio play, you know, it's really stripped down because you're just focusing on the words and on the language. And so that was a really fun process for me, just to delve into that. But there's so much I want to direct, and like I'm just really hoping theater comes back soon because yeah, it's been hard not being able to like go see plays or create stuff. But yeah.
We have Rasul said, I'm not sure if you previously mentioned it, but what is the hardest part of directing?
Yeah, I think in general, leadership, at least for me, I think one of the key things that I try to focus on in directing is making a space where everyone feels welcome to bring their ideas and to bring their vision, and being a leader who is able to like curate a space that feels like that is sometimes difficult. And I think, because I think that I often haven't seen directing mentors who have done that. A lot of the directors that I've worked with as an assistant director have been like, my vision is the vision. That's the only way to go. Like, that's the one thing. And like, I really am frustrated about spaces like that because like, there's so many different voices in the room and like, there's so many more possibilities when we're all able to like enter the space with our ideas. And so that's probably a hard part, is trying to find creative ways to make the space feel like we're all in it together and creating the work together.
Awesome. Danielle wants to know, she says she doesn't have a question, but this is inspiring because this is an important topic to discuss, which I have passion in. So yeah, we do have some budding artists on this Zoom. So like I said, I'm glad that you were, able to talk to them, because that process is so different for everyone that, if you've never done it before, I mean, you started, around their age and even before, I remember one of the performances I saw you in was for Color Girls.
Yeah.
I was just completely blown away. I was just amazed. I thought I was on Broadway. She was incredible. So when you keep saying you're directing, I'm like, what about you performing? You are such a talented artist in so many different ways that, how did you shift from the performance art to the directing and the playwriting and that sort of thing for, our students that may not even realize that that's something that they can actually start working on now?
Yeah, for me personally, because I was in like a couple of plays like my freshman year of college, and I realized really early on that when I was acting, I would start thinking about like, what would the lights look like here? What would the sound look like here? And it was like just me being really in my head, and I realized maybe I should like try to actually do that and like try jumping into directing, because I'd never done it before. And I think pretty much now, like I like don't act anymore, but I kind of am trying to get into it again because I kind of miss it a little bit. But yeah, I think that it's also because of the fact that in my school, there wasn't a lot of spaces that felt safe for me to come as an actor. And so I tried to like create spaces for people to come, like people that wanted to act like myself, that were like where I could feel comfortable and safe. So that was the need too.
Nice. Rabrea wants to know, if you weren't doing what you're doing, what would be your plan B?
So yeah, when I went into undergrad, I thought I was going to do law. And so I probably was still, I think I did my internship for School to Career International Law and things like that. And so I probably would be doing like more with that. And that's still my plan B now. Like if this doesn't work out, we'll see. But yeah.
Definitely seems to be working. Yeah, it's funny because we have two students that are at Steeltown now, and I know that was one of your placements as well as law. So Alexis had multiple experiences at School of Career. We had her in risk management at UPMC for a summer, which was not exciting, but that's what the lawyers do. So
well, Alexis is that poor student. Okay, I've heard that story.
So any advice for the Steeltown students, Nicoye and Michael? Is Michael still there? I lost Michael. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I really liked that internship. I mean, I thought it was really cool. Just getting to like learn about film in Pittsburgh. It was fun. How have y'all liked it?
I like it. It's pretty cool.
I like it so far. I mean, it kind of seems like
I'm getting the background of what's going on behind the camera more. And I like that because I feel like that's not really represented when you're watching like a TV show or something. And you really see like, oh, there's the director. That's what you see on the TV show. You see a slate and that's it.
Yeah.
And I like being able to see like what goes on behind and how the camera works. Like I learn more every time I'm there.
Yeah, it's really cool. I really enjoyed when I was there, like looking at scripts and getting to read scripts that were coming in. I don't know if y'all are getting to do any of that, but that was really cool for me because it like teaches you a lot too as a writer, like of things that people are interested in and like how to tell a story, how to shape a story. But yeah.
Amazing. What skills does it take to be a director, from Rasul?
Yeah. So I'll speak from for like plays and stuff. I think first of all, like being I think creating more directors who are thinking about how to create rooms that are balanced and that invite many kinds of leadership are important. And then also just like an eye for just like a visual image. I think the first thing that I usually think about when I'm directing is like the first and last image I want the audience to leave with. So what what do they see when they come in, and what do they see when they leave? And I think if you read a play and you have those things in your mind, like you should go for it, because I think that like that's the core thing that is important to a process, is trying to like tie images together. And I think usually I don't go in with like, this is my thing, like this is the one thing I want to do. I usually come in with like those two images, and then I'll like shape like the series of images that precede that as I go along with the cast and in community, which I think is really important to my process.
Awesome.
Alexis, I have a quick question for you, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
What skills have you picked? What skills that you either learned yourself or learned, with people like Miss Carla and programs like School of Career? What skills? Yikes! Sorry. What skills have you picked up? Had you picked up prior to your time as an actor and director? That some people might not think are connected, but that are, transferable skills from the arts to the rest of the world. Because I know that a lot of folks, I was a musical theater kid forever, hide your surprise. But a lot of my friends are saying, I majored in theater and I don't know what else to do. These skills are transferable. And I haven't always agreed with that. And I just wanted to get your take on it, please.
Yeah. Well, I think so much of theater for me is learning how to like take up space with confidence and like speak in front of people and things like that. Because I honestly think that like a lot of my own confidence and ability to like be in rooms and stuff came from my experience directing, and came from like just like that practice of, and also creating spaces where I felt comfortable doing that with other Black and brown folks and Black women who I felt comfortable around and things like that. So that was a huge part of it. And then I think like before I started being an actor and a performer and a theater artist, really I think the thing of seeing educators and teachers was really important to me. So like Miss B and like Miss Carla and my mom and like people around me who were inspiring in terms of like how they educated and taught was really important to how I thought about creating work. I think like being able to lead a room, being able to create stories and things like that is tied for me to education and teaching. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
If you taught, where would you ultimately like to teach? And if you go directly into full-time playwriting, where would you like to be? Of course, Broadway, or what would be your medium?
Yeah, I want to teach. So I want to teach at the college level, I think. I'm just trying to figure out because I think with the MFA I can teach like creative writing and stuff. So I want to try to do that. Or I might continue getting degrees so I can like teach other classes and stuff at the college level. And I don't know where. I want to teach like a small little school, I think somewhere, like a liberal arts school. And then in terms of being a playwright, I don't know, I get really frustrated with Broadway sometimes, just because I feel like a lot of times it silences like stories that are trying to like do political work or do activism or things like that, which I think is really important to the stories that I'm trying to tell, is stories that are trying to fight for freedom and for people to have full and well lives. So yeah, I think I just want to be in a community with people who are also creating and in a space that feels supportive is really what I would look for as a playwright.
So, does anybody else have any questions before we move to the next section, or you all are so quiet? I love it. If this was in person, it would not be this way. All right, back to you, Alexis. You can move forward.
All right, cool. So in terms of the writing exercise, I'm just gonna ask y'all to, if y'all have your pencil and paper, whatever you're writing with, make a circle or imagine a circle on your piece of paper, and you're gonna add yourself as a point on that circle. I'll give y'all a second to do that. Okay, and then once you have yourself as a point on the circle, you're gonna add 5 more points around the circle. And those are gonna be 5 people who make up your community. So think about people who are older than you, people who are younger than you, mentors, friends, but add 5 people to that circle.
What if it's not 5 people?
It can be 4, 3, however many you wanna add. I'll give y'all a second to do that. Oh, yeah. So you're making a circle and you're going to add yourself. Sorry, someone said repeat it in the chat, but you're going to add yourself on the circle and then add between 1 and 5 people around your circle, mentors, friends, community members, just anybody who is inspiring to you or is a part of your community, who is in your circle. You don't have to know them personally either. It can be like a celebrity if you want it to be. All right, and then from there, we're gonna do 2 things. So the first thing is I'm gonna give y'all like maybe 10 or 15 minutes to do both of these things, and I'll like tell you when to switch. But the first one, you're gonna choose the oldest person in your circle and write a list of 10 questions to ask that person about their life. So things that, just like things that you might have never asked them about, like how they've moved through life, lessons they've learned, anything that you wanna ask them. Make that list of questions. If you don't get to 10, that's okay, but I'm gonna start with that. So I'll give y'all actually a few minutes to do that, and then we'll go to the second part of it. And when y'all get close to 10, can you like give like a thumbs up reaction or just something in the chat? So I like, oh, that'd be great.
Anyone else really struggling with writing by hand after spending all this time in front of a computer? I'm like, cramp, like my fingers aren't finging.
Because I had school,
Poor Jeremy.
so it's like,
Miss B, you know I'm silly. Come on, don't be.
I'm having trouble with the computer. I do well with a pen or pencil. And I'm the oldest of my group.
Eleanor Roosevelt said, age is a matter of feeling, not of years.
Oh, I feel great. I'm all right.
Oh, well, I feel ancient, so.
I'm gonna give y'all a few more minutes for this part, probably till like 5 o'clock. All right, so we'll move to the next section of this this exercise. So what you're gonna do now is that you have your list of things, and then you're gonna start to imagine the space inside of your circle. And what you want that to look like is like sort of the ideal world that might make life a little bit better, or like the ideal life for the people in your circle. What might a world look like that is capable of holding and of making the people in your circle happy and feel held and cared for and all the things. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. And you're gonna make a list of like the physical characteristics of that world in the inside of your circle. So what does it look like? What does it smell like? What is it? What do you hear there? What do you feel there? Like those kinds of things. Also, like allow yourself to think about like who else is in that space, what colors are there, and just try to like free write or create like those lists of things inside of your circle or around it if you don't have enough space in your circle, but allow yourself to build that world. Let me know if you have any questions, either vocally or in the chat. And you can also think about things like, how does time move here? Is it slow? Is it quick? Is there like, are there certain things that like shape how time moves? Here's another question to consider too for that inner circle space. Like how does conflict work in that space? Like, what do people do when they get in an argument? How is that solved? What happens? And how do people speak to each other when they get into conflict? All right, cool. So start wrapping up your list or your notes that you've been taking about what that world looks like. And I'd love to hear some people's responses, either your questions or the things in your world. I'd also just in general encourage y'all to really ask those questions to those people if you have connections with them, if you know them. Like really try to ask them, because I think that like that's super important. It's like collecting knowledge, passing down knowledge, and gathering it, especially from folks who are older than us. Cool. Does anyone want to share from either part of the exercise?
Like our inspirations?
Yeah, your inspirations, or you could talk about, you know, the qualities of the world that you were building inside your circle, or the questions you had.
We had to do like 5 with a circle, right?
Yeah.
Okay. My top 5 would be definitely my mom, my school counselor, Miss Booker, my godmom, and I'll probably say Miss Carla and Mr. Jeremy. Like top 5.
Are you trying to make me cry, Trinity?
No, well, I was just thinking about it, and y'all guys really like got me like thinking about my career and stuff like that. So like top 5 like inspirations would definitely be those 5, like my mom and like my counselor, my godmom, and then my Miss Carla and Mr. Jeremy.
Are there any questions you wrote down for anybody on there, or any qualities? No. Thank you, Trinity.
You're welcome.
Does anyone else want to share anything from the exercise?
Rasul, you said yours was finished. Do you want to share?
I was just talking about some of the people that like I know, like my friends are a big inspiration to me. Um, so I'll put them as that, and my mother, my grandmother, some other people that I know. And for the world, I kind of put like a paradise in a way, like a utopia kind of, and it's just peaceful. Um, and it's like good energy. So that's kind of what I envision.
Mm-hmm. What are some of like the sounds or colors or like shapes in that space for you? Like, or what did you like write down or note?
Beautiful colors. You know, beautiful natural landscapes. You know, when I hear sounds, like nature sounds, things like that.
Cool, cool, cool.
So I'm going to talk about my world then. So in my world, I wrote that I would like it to be like a friendly world where everyone's friendly to one another, because especially with the Trumpers right now getting a little crazy, a caring and loving. I would like a world where like everything's not about money, because I feel like the economy, like that's too much in America, and that's the reason why like we're always up but we're down at the same time. So like if everything is free, like it doesn't really matter. Like that's why I wish like something, I'll say even now, like I wish money wasn't a thing, because everyone would be equal. So like that's like my dream world.
That's great. Thank you.
Talk about conflicts then, since nobody else did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I said for conflicts, people should just like talk things out, no violence, listen to one another, and like if that stuff can't work, you should just like separate yourselves for a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Michael.
I'll share the people on my circle.
Awesome. Thank you, Rabrea.
Wasn't it 5 people?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So um I wrote down my great grandparents because I got to meet them. A lot of people don't get to meet their great grandparents. My mom, I wrote down Tiana Taylor. She's inspirational. I like her. She's my favorite actress and singer. And I wrote down my 2 sisters.
Awesome. Thank you.
You.
Uh, my dog, my other dog, my mom, my brother, my sister, and my dad.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so my 5 is my dog, my sisters, my 2 sisters, my mom, and my grandma. And my great aunt too. Yeah, that's 6, but yeah.
Thank you.
Danielle, do you want us to wait for you? Oh, okay. One thing I can share is peace and acceptance, because it's not easy to have, and to have role models to handle it in an appropriate way is inspiring to have in a way, because not everyone has the ability. To me, it's a personal opinion. Okay. Thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you all so much for listening to this presentation. I wish you all the best with like the stuff that you're doing and the things that you're learning and stuff like that with school to career and with your schools. But yeah, it was great to meet y'all virtually.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any separate questions for Alexis that you all didn't get a chance to ask?
Well, if you come up with anything, one of the questions in the journal that will be posted in just a moment is, did you have any questions you didn't get a chance to ask Ms. Alexis? So if you're like me and you always think of a really great something to say like an hour after the fact, please feel free to put it in your journal. Please keep in mind it's the same 100-word word count requirement as the other journals. So keep an eye on that, and give us a shout if you have any questions. But let's have a big mics off, cameras on. Thank you very much, and round of applause for Ms. Alexis.
Thank you.
Miss Carla,
Thank
she is
you.
as absurdly modest as you told me she was.